It's another great day of Cribl TV. So glad to be here with Paul Stout, the one renowned field CTO. Is it field CTO? Field
It
CEO?
is
What's the
field CTO, yes.
Oh, the man in charge. How about that?
That's-
So lucky to have Paul here today. Paul, a frequent guest of the show, friend of the show. We really appreciate Paul being here. We had a great time with our last session talking about data classification. Today, we're going to talk about GoatSearch. It's a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. I think this is going to be really interesting. So just also, anyone watching has questions, please ask away. We're here. We are here. Hopefully, we'll have some answers. So, Paul, tell us, what is GoatSearch?
GoatSearch at the highest level is a Splunk app that enables you to run Cribl searches within a Splunk dashboard. So if you think about running a Splunk search, you just search against an index, or you can do commands like tstats to get index level statistics. You could do things like input lookups to get an output of lookup, but all of these generate events in there. GoatSearch does the same thing, except with results from a Cribl search. So allowing you to search your data in place, no matter where it may be, through a configured data set in Cribl in Splunk.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think there's a lot of options there. So let's talk about from a use case expectations. What GoatSearch is good for. Like the way I'm thinking about this right now is especially, it's tough when you're working with a SOC, a NOC, something like that. Hey, look, Eugene has commented, Mr.
I saw
GoatSearch.
that. Yes.
There you go. Yeah, and so I think this is a great way to start. It's always tough when you're asking teams to say, hey, we're going to use this, say a SOC or NOC, this is what we're using. But also we want to leverage other tools. And that's why I think Cribl Search is a great way to access other data in your data lake. But sometimes asking, trying to ask someone to learn a new query language can be a struggle. I think GoatSearch is a good bridge to start getting people used to in your main UI, being able to access both. I think there's a lot of value there. And then you can start longer term having people use Cribl Search directly. What do you think about that, Paul? Or any other use cases? What do you see? What's the theme around using GoatSearch?
I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a transient use case, and then there's more a permanent use case. That transient use case is exactly to your point about breaking down the barriers of entry, about enabling people to use Cribl Search without having to learn KQL. But it's worth noting that GoatSearch in this capacity is not designed as a direct replacement for any kind of replacement for the Cribl Search interface. What it is, there are limits to it. Custom search commands are limited to 50,000 events that are rendered on screen. And the point is a point of entry and then a transition to where you're not bringing over a full data set out of Cribl Search and then processing in Splunk. You're following general search better practices, and that is filtering your event set earlier in that pipeline, in this case on the Cribl Search side, and bringing it back. Now, there's a more permanent use case of this that I really like about it, and that's what we call instant replays. That 50,000 event limit only applies to events that are rendered on screen. So if you have Cribl set up and you have a worker group set up with a Cribl, I think it's Cribl TCP input, and you use the pipe send command, you can target a replay of data, say based upon you get a detection and you want to see everything that your Cribl data sets have on a specific host. You can target that back, bind it to a start and end date, and it will funnel all of those events back into Splunk for analysis.
Nice. I think that's pretty cool. And this is something where so let's talk about some use cases where the idea of, and also ask you to do a demo when you get ready. So the idea of the use case of, hey, I'm doing an investigation, I need to reach back into our data lake for something without having to restore it into our primary tool. I think this is GoatSearch is a great way to do it.
Yes.
Also ancillary research. So do you think this would be appropriate for like a full IR, full threat hunt, or is this something do you think would be more just for one-offs, occasional searching, things like that?
I think it would augment that. If you trigger for using GoatSearch for an instant replay, at that point, you've got a full picture in your system of analysis. So you're already, of course, going to have data in there, the data that triggered it in the first place. And then by bringing this ancillary data over, you can also craft the search and get a preview of it. And then based upon that search identifier, you could very quickly jump over into a Cribl Search dashboard if you wanted to be able to see the full result set on your screen to be able to continue with that investigation.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. Hey, so do you want to jump into the demo, or do you want anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, let's jump into the demo. Hopefully, we've already got some more activity in the comments, the chat than we had last time. So hopefully we get some great questions on this. But yeah, let's just show it off and see where it goes, man.
Yeah, we should see if we can coerce Eugene to just join the show. There we go. All right, and so just so this is Paul's demo environment of what's called the Splunk software. It is not Cribl's. So just to be really clear, this is Paul. Paul's not a Cribl employee. So he's demoing his tools with assets that he owns. Thank you for that. Just this note.
Visicor, yes. I'm putting my hand.
All right, here we go. All right, fire away.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is available on Splunk Base. It's available for both Splunk Cloud and Splunk Enterprise. So you can download it and install it through whatever methods you use to install your content there. It does require setup. Obviously, well, I would hope you can't communicate with the Cribl API without establishing that trust there. So you've got a link right here that will take you to a YouTube video in terms of how to set up your API keys and credentials. There are videos on the Splunk Base listing that show you more or less a walkthrough of what I'm going to demo today, how to get it set up, and just enter your information, tenant workspace, client ID, and secret. And we go ahead and add. You can see that I already have one configured here.
Can you be fair? Can you zoom in on your UI just a little bit?
Absolutely. I tend to forget.
There we go. Very
4K,
nice.
4K screens don't work well on laptops. I don't know if you're on one, but someone out there is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got these 4 fields: tenant workspace, client ID, and client secret. And again, this link will walk you through exactly where to find each of these bits of information for configuration.
Nicely done.
So if we jump back over here to GoatSearch Explorer, in the spirit of you can get started without knowing KQL, I also wanted people to get started without having to learn the GoatSearch syntax and overview. So the GoatSearch Explorer it will help you construct, and you can see that you've got the Splunk syntax, query syntax. It will help you construct these goat searches to help you get started. So we can see we've got a workspace configured. We've got a list of all of our configured data sets. And we can see that we pull back an example from the selected data set as Cribl internal logs. Excuse me, we're pulling that back just so you can get a visual on, hey, this is actually the data I was looking for, or no, these are not the droids you were looking for. If we switch it over here to, so this is a Cribl lake. If we switch it over here to say an S3 sample event, we're going to see that this is a radically different format down here. It's not JSON. It's going to come through, when it comes through, space delimited, which unless you know the order of the columns on space delimited or tab delimited data, then you're going to have a hard time describing it. I am used to that coming back by the time I finish that spiel. So this is interesting.
Oh.
There it is.
The demo gods are always there.
They are. I actually had a demo fail for the first time last Monday. It's rare that my demos fail, but it blew up. Anyway, we can see we've got the field extractions here. You've got a couple of IP addresses, a bunch of numbers, accept and okay. On my own, without knowing the data set, I would have no idea what this means. Well, that tells me that one IP is my destination, one is my source. You've got ports here. You've got protocol identifier interfaces. And this is just, again, showing that all of the fields that are configured in your Cribl data set are available in Splunk.
Right.
Now, let's go ahead. We have this open and search button. So we're only getting one down here. Let's go ahead and see what the first 1,000 events look like on that. It tells me that every time I bring this up. I'm aware that AI is now there. The
AI is watching.
The pop-up. I don't mind being told once about a feature, but I got it. Let's move on. All right, cool. So we can see that we have 1,000 events that have come back in this. And if we expand any of these, we can see that we've got all of the fields defined. Now, we've got a couple of ways that if we wanted to make this permanent within Splunk, we've got the Splunky way, which is to use the pipe collect command. And what that's going to do is it's going to put it into a summary index. It's going to add some metadata. But what it's not going to do is it's not going to preserve these field extractions. Now, if the data were self-describing, something like key value pairs or JSON, obviously it would re-extract. On the Cribl side, if we go over here and look, we've got a worker group with a Cribl HTTP setup. I don't like that I saw that. in red, but we're going to find out in a moment. We've got, let's see if the demo gods keep smiling. So we've got Cribl HTTP. We can go over here to our routes and we can see that we've our GoatSearch demo. We send it through this replay set index pipeline and we send it out to a Splunk Cloud destination. So by using the pipe send, and it's set up as the default group. So if I pipe this to, actually, let me do one thing before. I'm going to show you before and after. All right, we're going to go for our index equals VPC. If I type index correctly. One more. We can see that we have no events on this. If I expand it back to, let's say, 7 days, this was my last targeted replay. But for today, we're going to take it to 60 minutes. Now, if I head back over here, and again, we add that pipe send.
And you want to explain what that means exactly for the uninitiated?
Sure. In Cribl Search, what pipe send does is it will send it to a worker group for processing over the Cribl HTTP port. Now, that worker group is by default the default one, so that's why I'm not specifying a group, but I could specify a group equals my group and send it through that if I had such a group configured. Once it comes in on Cribl HTTP, you can then catch it and process it like any other data source. So you saw that I'm sending it through a pipeline that sets it to a replay index. You can add additional metadata to it. You can tag it. It follows all the rules of Cribl routing and processing.
Are there any limitations to how much data you can send over pipe send?
I'm not certain about that. I can tell you that I was running a demo of this at CriblCon, and I was wanting to show exactly what I'm showing here, but I had my time range set to an entire day, and I piped through 9.8 million events, clogging up my entire environment for an hour, such that I couldn't do another demo. So I can tell you at least 9.8 million events came through on it. There may be a limit.
All right. There you go. All right. So there's some options. What about also from a connectivity standpoint? This is going to have to be a stream worker group that is connected to cloud, right?
Yes. First of all, it has to be in Cribl.cloud, period, as Cribl Search is not available. Wow, that was faster than as Cribl.cloud is not available to Cribl Enterprise. Cribl Search, excuse me, is not available. So yes, you have to have the data sets enabled. As far as the worker group goes, it should be a cloud worker group, unless somehow you've got routes back into your firewall, which I don't know why you would, to connect it to an on-prem. I guess in theory it's possible, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
All right. So we can see now we got begin sending and, well, both of them begin sending. But if we go back over here to our index, that is the 1,000 events that we just sent through. And we can highlight this, see that all of our field extractions are still there. Now, keep in mind, this does bear an ingest cost to run the replay. So there is certainly value when we can of doing the search in the Cribl Search interface so that we're not, bearing that ingest cost to the system of analysis. I'm working with a client right now where, as far as PCI audit goes, the auditors are having a hard time considering the SIM ecosystem as the SIM. And when they say all of your data has to be in the SIM, we talked last month about intelligent data routing, about value matching and sending lower cost value. Using the tools independently, you can still get a full picture of your environment. Splunk Search for whatever you're sending to Splunk, Cribl Search for data sets you have configured. But what I'm finding actually over the past week is that doesn't always convince an auditor that all of your data is going into the SIM. Right. This allows us to help bridge that. Maybe it's not stored in the SIM at this point, but it is absolutely accessible through the SIM.
Right. And just a little of a side there. Typically, when auditors say SIM, they also will accept control. The argument that we have retained control over the data and an SLA for getting the data to the SIM.
Right.
Just because this is typically there's a lot lost in translation between what a regulation says, what an auditor says it says, and what your legal counsel says.
Right.
And so these are the kind of things that try to work that out, because rarely does it say data has to be retained in the SIM in a searchable manner, for a defined time period. Right. Typically, it's more about retained and used. Yes. So just my own pedantic rant that is now.
One more thing I want to point out on this. Again, we're using a very, very simple search on this. We are just querying a data set. That I would argue that anytime you start getting into a SIM, your first point of entry is bring back all the data, see what you can do with it. Right. As In a shop where GoatSearch were operationalized, as the use cases of that mature, what I would expect to see is that you start having more and more targeted KQL that does that pre-limiting, that pre-filtering to reduce the result set before it comes back. Because keep in mind, you are doing a round trip back to Cribl Cloud to get chunks of results out of this. Now, one thing keen-eyed viewers may have seen is that this actually didn't render anything until all of these events came back. We have a change right now that, thank you, J.R. Murray, if you're watching, that J.R. Murray has helped us with that actually allows you to stream these results as they become available. So the next version of GoatSearch is, if I can plug the next version features here, is going to have the ability to more or less real-time stream events as they become available. It's going to enable processing of the dot commands. So like dot show data sets, something to that effect. We are looking to be able to actually execute saved searches in Cribl Search, the search through GoatSearch. I had one more, and it slipped my mind. There's at least one more coming. So
it
secret
will
feature.
come to you in due course.
Secret
Next time
feature.
we got to invite JR. Hope JR is doing well.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was super helpful with that. And he's like, hey, I think I can do that. Well, sure enough, he did. So he sent a pull request. We reviewed it, merged it, and it's in the current develop branch.
There we go. JR has skills.
Cool, man. Well, it's a super simple application that I think has really powerful application, especially once you start considering things like the targeted replay.
Right.
But in that simplicity, you can also breed complexity of use cases of that. So I'd like to turn it back to you. Any other questions come up or to our?
Yeah, I think this is where, so let's pretend, and this is where I was just trying to like, all right, let's pretend I'm running a SOC. All right, this is here, you're my consultant. Right. And so like my first simplistic thing would be, this is something that could help with an IR response where I need to like an auditor says, hey, show me data that's from 1 year and 1 day ago. So I can reach into my data lake from my single UI and find that. And so let's say, can you do a keyword search? So say you're doing query and then let's look for a field. Is that an option?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, let's operate on this exact same data set here. And I don't know how much this is going to return. So we got our data set here. And then actually, what was the field name? I think it was interface ID. It is interface ID. This should show me within 1,000 anything within the last 15 minutes that had that interface ID.
Because that's always gonna be the thing is like, what can you do? All right, so can you,
and that's it. They all
nice. All right, so let's pretend that was a username. So you need to find a username for it's like an authentication record.
Exactly.
And this is last 15 minutes, so can you define a time range or does it have to be like the last 15 minutes?
Well, I'll tell you what, let's show you that live. So let's take this back and let's say Sunday between 1800 and Sunday between 1900. The GoatSearch will respect sending time parameters in one of two ways. One is if you set it in your time range picker, it will actually respect that on the back end. Or the other is you can pass the earliest and latest keywords. So use case for this is it makes it easier to, I need to I don't know if that interface ID is there. So let's try that.
Yeah, totally.
So this makes it easier to run in the UI, but if you were to use this as a save search, maybe an alert action that's triggered based upon a detection, you would want to use those earliest and latest keyword. Do I not have anything?
Or maybe just do it like this morning or something like that, where you have some data.
I actually want to go back over here and see. The cool thing is I can go through my search history here. Oh no, that actually didn't pull anything up. We can see that the time range was set here. All right. Let's look at something different. I think that's the data set name. Yeah, there we go. All right, that one has it. So we'll go back and we'll rerun that through GoatSearch. Again, this is going back to the second. I should have checked the retention on that before I tried to go more than a week in the past.
There you go. Yeah, and these are the kind of things that just kind of, just get this set up, look for how to do it, the little things that would, make
exactly.
this work better.
There we go. So going all the way back to,
Right.
you can see, of course, you got your latest event first. Now, notice it's trailing off here. This is probably limited by the limit 1,000. There's very likely more in here, but it's very much within that time range that we had set for it. Again, earliest and latest keywords. If some of you can actually control sampling through here. So if I were to pass it sample equals and give it a decimal, then it would say 1 to 10, 1 to 100, 1 to 1,000. You can actually change the chunk size from the API. I think it defaults to every 200 events by default. And this is going to depend on network latency. And if you wanted to tune that, there's a number of features on it that you can pass on the, they're documented on Spunkbase. I don't particularly remember all of them off the top of my head. I stumbled there because what I wanted to show you is if I go in here, history, and let's go back to this search. It was actually run on the 13th. If I just grab that search identifier and I come back in here, we don't actually have to pass it a query. We can pass it a search identifier of a search that's already run, and it will bring back the results. Now, at this point, it's going to completely ignore this date and time range. Because it's pulling the results of that search, but that is not re-executing that search. That's pulling one that's already run out of Cribl Search.
Yeah, it's a cool way to do that. And so it's like I'm a SOC manager. I mean, this is a good way of saying it's a repeatable thing that my overnight SOC can do, my junior analyst can do. So where would you start choosing? So going over to the full Cribl Search UI versus GoatSearch.
Well, if first of all, if your result set is going to exceed 50,000 and you want to view it inline, and there's nothing more you can do to reduce it, I would go over there. Once you start needing to change, say, your extractions on it, if we mentioned that it's a little bit slower in here because of the round trips back to the API. So if you're sensitive to the speed of that, or if you want to start building out content in a Cribl Search pack, so think dashboards, those are all some use cases for heading back over to the Cribl Search UI.
Yeah, I would think also some more in-depth searching, especially larger result sets, would drive you over there. And this is where I want to mention also Cribl Search and has some really nice options, especially for AI assistance. So do you mind clicking on the lower right-hand corner? The teal eye in the sky. And so this is Copilot. And so this is a great way if you need help with searching. And if you go in the upper left-hand corner where it says follow-up queries, where it's kind of guessing, potential queries that you want to run.
Got it right here.
That are really helpful. And right above that, you have a natural language spot. You're right under the word home, where you can actually then write in a natural language query as well, which can be very helpful.
I had not seen that one previously. I had seen the follow-up queries, but I hadn't seen the natural language. So great call out.
Yeah, it's really nice. And also one of the things I want to encourage, and anyone who's familiar with writing dashboards in Splunk software, that's really, really awkward to say, by the way, is that typically if you're writing a multi-panel dashboard, you have to have some fairly specialized knowledge to write an efficient multi-panel dashboard. One of the things I like about this is Copilot is also walking you through building a multi-panel dashboard, and it will write it in an efficient manner, aka handle the base search and things like that for you. Actually as part of the AI. So it'll help. It'll let a less experienced or inexperienced user, you do the best practices by default for a multi-panel dashboard.
So whereas this is not for the beginner or intermediate user, but if you want to do that same optimization on the Splunk side, let's say that you, for some reason, just have to build it into a Splunk dashboard, you can still use GoatSearch as your base search and run post-process against it, just like any other Splunk search. So that option exists in Splunk as well. I'm just not aware of an easy button for it.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. And that's always been kind of the problem. It's just not just the Splunk software. It's in anything running multi-panel. It's a struggle because otherwise, typically every panel is treated as a separate query.
Yes.
Which creates some challenges when you are the administrator of said software.
Or when you're paying for a compute on a cloud platform.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing if you're the vendor. It is a struggle if you are not. So it's all good stuff. I think this is really great. So we got a couple minutes. So, Paul, you got anything interesting going on this week? You got any kind of challenges that you ran into working with customers, especially maybe around sharing data between observability and security?
Challenges? No, we just started work on a new client, and that's where kind of my insights into the PCI view of the SIM came through. I can tell you that we were able to just this morning take a source that's coming into Cribl at, I think it's like 4.5 terabytes a day. And we were able to achieve a reduction of 58%. That's saving 2.64 terabytes on it without dropping a single event and still having all fields searchable in the system of analysis. So
That
not
is
necessarily a challenge, but I'm stoked, saving a client 3 terabytes of ingest at the end of my week. That's a great way to close it out.
Yeah, that is just technical dirty talk. So nicely done. I mean, because I guess that's always the challenge is because, and this is where I've always been a big believer in Cribl, because the power of transforming your data,
Yes.
changing the formats, getting and typically the benefit is, and the thing I really love is that the idea that I can transform the format, make it faster to search, easier to search, much richer, have it fully structured, and also made it a lot smaller. And that's just,
Yes.
being able to do both is unusual.
It is. A lot of times people, I like to say, take a hatchet to their data stream. So we're talking about dropping events. Windows is notorious for this. SOCs typically only care about 10 to 12 event codes until something happens. And so
Right.
what you end up doing is you're sending over those 10 to 12 event codes and you're just throwing the rest of it into the trash can, quite
Right.
frankly. And one approach that we at VisiCore take to what we call data shaping is just that. We prefer to increase what we call the value density of the data.
Yep.
And sure, everyone likes saving money, but the reality is once people have gotten used to a certain capacity in their system of analysis, what we find is that it's less about going back to your vendor and saying, hey, we want to pay you less. And it's more about saying, what other data can we bring in and get value out of? A lot of in fact, all organizations, I'll just go out on a limb, they do not ingest all of the data that their organization generates.
They can't afford
They
to.
have to make hard choices on that. And by
Yep.
increasing the density of value in that, you're able to onboard more and more and do more with your current systems.
I am so stealing that term because I think that's a great way to talk about it.
The
No
data
IT or
density, data shaping.
now the density of
Yes.
value. I mean, and I think that's the thing is like no IT problem is ever solved with less data.
No, of
And
course not.
so you need better quality of data. You need more value in your data. And I think this is also what helps justify, the why
Right,
we're doing this. We
exactly.
have a discussion with the business leader. Hey, we want you to invest money in doing this. And they're give them a bunch of, blah, 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 and transform, but hey, we're going to make your data more valuable. There's something that makes sense to me.
Well, organizations are always trying to do more with less. And at Cribl, you'll like to talk about the 30% CAGR and 7% growth in IT budgets.
Yep.
And so, when you're starting to look at how to cut costs, your expensive system of analysis starts to become a very, very attractive target. And I can tell you what, it becomes a hell of a lot easier conversation for a renewal when you can say, I am certain I'm getting value out of every byte that is going into
Right.
the SIM.
Yeah, and especially when you're looking to justify your budget. And so it
Exactly.
absolutely makes sense. So Paul, thank you very much. I hope you will come back soon. I think this was really, really valuable. Let's see any questions. Mr. Eugene out there hasn't shared any more questions, so I guess even Eugene is happy.
Well, that is fantastic.
There we go.
Maybe getting slightly less pedantic today.
There we go.
That's a Slack joke for those who don't get it.
There we go. Hey, I appreciate it. This is great. I mean, I think what you're doing with GoatSearch is outstanding. I encourage anyone who's using the Splunk software to try it out and and see what you do. And also reach out to Paul, share tips, share what you're looking for, share something you want. Maybe Paul will get some time and he'll add it on or JR.
We would love to. We've already taken a few calls with people reaching out through Splunk-based that wanted to just get a primer on how to get it configured and installed. And we are always welcome to feature requests. So either that, or if you want to learn more about how we squeezed 4.5 terabytes into 2.5, we're happy to talk about that too.
Hey, and mentioned and so just this is the time to talk about you and talk about what you do and who you work for. Because how should they reach out to you?
For GoatSearch, they can hit me up through Splunk-based. I am on the Cribl community, and I tend to have a really similar persona everywhere I go. So I'm not hard to find. on there. Cribl Community Slack is a way to reach out to me. They can hit up VisitCore's website. We've got direct scheduling on there. We've got Calendly invites. We've got email addresses that'll make it to me. There's all kind of ways to get in touch.
That sounds great. Hey, I really appreciate it. Hope you come back soon. Have a great afternoon and enjoy your Friday and then your weekend.
Thanks for having me, Ed. You as well. And it's always a pleasure.
Thank you. All right, everyone, have a great day. Enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you next week.